Okay, number 3, Savile Row, that building right behind us. And that's the location where the Beatles did their very last live performance on top of the rooftop. So we're at number 34, Montagu Square, that building there right behind me. That's where John Lennon and Yoko Ono rented the flat in 1968. It was here where their photograph was taken for the album cover, The Two Virgins. What the Beatles did for popular music can never be overstated. They are one of the most innovative creators of the history of any art form. From the fun-loving pop songs like She Loves You in '63 to the Rubber Souls album with tracks like Michelle or Norwegian Wood in '65. The progression of lyrics and music in just 2 years is worlds apart. They evolved and matured like no one before or since in the terms of musical experimentation, lyrics and composition. Formed in Liverpool in 1960 and regarded as the most influential band of all time. They were the pioneers of popular music and ignited the 1960s counterculture, laying down the very foundations of popular music for generations to come. They experimented with a wide range of musical styles, such as classical, ballads, Indian, psychedelia and hard rock.
I got blisters on my fingers!
The press dubbed them the Fab Four as Beatlemania swept across the United States. The day Paul McCartney met John Lennon in 1957 at St. Peter's Church, they formed one of the most successful writing partnerships in history. In 1960, the band were offered a residency in Hamburg and they would play 7-hour gigs at the Kaiserkeller club. This is where they really honed their craft. In 1962, Brian Epstein became the band's manager and helped shape the Beatles' image and turned them into a professional world-class act. February 1964, the Beatles arrived in America and 2 days later they performed on the Ed Sullivan Show to an estimated audience of 70 million people.
Well, where are we heading now?
We're off to see Sir Paul's house. And there it is, that building right behind me, number 20 Forthland Road. And that is the childhood home of Paul McCartney, and he wrote over 100 songs here.
So here we are, that's George Harrison's house, where he was born, wasn't it?
Yep, the white one there, right behind us.
Number 12.
Look at your face then, look.
Yeah, as usual.
Yep, so George Harrison's house, number 12. In the summer of 1966, the Beatles embarked on their final tour, performing 19 shows across North America. Shea Stadium on the 1st of March was the biggest live show anyone had ever done at that time, in front of 55,000 screaming fans. Security guards were kept occupied with fainting girls and audience members trying to reach the stage. The concert itself was a milestone in music history as the first stadium performance by a popular group. But it was a disaster. PA technology was in its infancy and the Beatles couldn't hear themselves over the screams of the audience. It was so bad that Ringo had to look at the other band members' shoulder movements in order to follow a song. They were unable to hear themselves play over the clamour of the audience, making the thing they loved sound subpar to them. And throughout the tour, poor planning and dangerous situations fueled the band's decision to make this the last tour and focus solely on creating new music in the studio. The double A-side single Penny Lane and Strawberry Fields was released in February 1967. John Lennon based the track on his childhood memories of playing in the garden at Strawberry Fields. It's a children's home that was managed by the Salvation Army. The original venue was demolished to allow construction for an underground railway, but in 1997 a replica of the club was rebuilt on 70% of the original site, with 15,000 bricks retrieved from the original club venue. The Cavern Club first opened in January 1957 and it was modelled on a Parisian cellar jazz club. Sir Paul McCartney first played with the John Lennon's group The Quarrymen at the Cavern in early 1958. The Beatles played here almost 300 times, along with bands like the Rolling Stones, The Who and The Kinks. It's such a tiny place and stage, but it feels like the centre of the musical universe. The Beatles set the standard for all bands that followed and are without question the greatest band of all time. They were pioneers of recording techniques and weren't afraid of using technology. This next band were their rivals and are the most amazing live act that are still performing to this very day. This is the brief history of the Rolling Stones.